to this edition of Believers Talk with Joe and Steve. We are your hosts. I'm Joe.
I'm Steve.
And this episode, we're going to talk about owners' meetings.
Yeah.
As most of you probably know, this past week, owners met, and they basically go over a bunch of different things, right? So I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit.
They go over the rules, and they vote on the rules and
Right.
what they want changed, and
Yep.
each team can bring whatever they want to the table.
Exactly.
I know the Bills brought a couple things, and they voted on that stuff. It's a gathering of all the owners where they can talk and do whatever. They can hash out different trades there. It's another just a meeting where everybody's together, and it's a little easier to talk to one owner. So picking up a phone. A lot of teams take their coaches and GMs.
Okay.
I believe the Bills took most of their staff.
Yeah.
Down there, so it's a nice gathering there too. I saw McDermott; he was down there. He did some things with EA Sports, as far as for the Madden game. They did the headshots and everything like that. Created him in the game. He did some things with New Era, the hats and stuff like that. They also the NFL in general re-upped their deal with Nike, so Nike's going to be the uniform provider as far as sidelines and all that stuff for a little while longer. So it's a bunch of mixed match stuff, but mostly they go over some things that they need to adjust for the new year, whether it's rules or salaries and stuff like that.
So that's what we're really going to talk to you about. There were a lot of rule changes this year that kind of affect how things will be run in the NFL. And believe it or not, despite what some sources say, you still need to vote on these rule changes and not just do them, right? There was an article out there, I forget who it was, from NFL.com, who said that the officials during the Super Bowl, I guess, took it upon themselves to change the rules. I don't know what you heard about that.
Yeah, I did see some tweets and stuff about that, and that kind of got me a little upset because I hate when if you're setting rules, follow those rules. Once you start varying off of them, it's very hard because, if in the Super Bowl they did change the catch rule, what does that say for all the rest of the games? They're meaningless to me. If that's how you're going to do it, and then, a lot of different things could have changed.
Absolutely.
A lot of different records, and maybe those teams wouldn't have been in the Super Bowl if you start changing rules back and forth. And it's just not a fair playing field for each team.
I mean, the biggest one, not for us, the biggest one for us would have been Benjamin, right? The Benjamin catch, which according to the new rules, I guess, would be a catch now.
And I thought it was a catch at the time too.
Most of us would agree it was a catch.
That was more of a catch than Clement's
exactly
in
the Super Bowl. But the biggest one is the Jesse James catch, right, against New England. I mean, that changes that whole ball game. The Steelers go up by 4, whatever it would be. Very little time left. They're the 1 seed now, and New England's 2 seed. Changes everything, right? So it's just interesting side bit. They're also saying, of course, they didn't do it, but
it's hard to say that they didn't. In my eyes, because if you look at the Benjamin catch compared to the Clement catch, I think the Benjamin is more of a catch. The Jesse James and Zach Ertz is very similar. Ertz might make a little bit more of a move. He might have had another step, so I can see that.
But still.
It's tough when you see those calls, and I hate the Patriots. Don't really care for the Eagles, but I did want to see it. It was a good game, but as I saw them, I'm like, well, that's not a catch. And it turned out that it was a so-called catch. So.
We were holding a party, and I remember we had Eagles fans here, and as soon as the one in the back of the end zone, who was that? As soon as that Clement thing happened, I came upstairs, and I was like, that's not a catch, and then touchdown. Zach Ertz thing happened, I was like, that's not a catch. Touchdown. I was like, okay, what do I know?
When you're changing rules so much, and it's hard because it's everybody's different opinion, and so they put it kind of more set in stone of what it kind of should be. Same thing as before. The Calvin Johnson, the Des Bryant, those were all catches. There will be more fumbles now.
Absolutely,
So that'll be more interesting. But if you control the ball and you make any type of move, it should be a catch. And especially before you had to. What I never understood is running the ball and you stick it out past the goal line. And it gets bobbled and comes loose. It's a dead play. It's a touchdown. But if you were catching the ball and you dove and held it out, then it's a fumble. So I never understood that, and they changed
They changed
that, I guess, now. But
yeah,
we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, right. We'll see what happens. I'll read the rule straight from the player rule change here. The standard for a catch has changed, so that a catch will be considered completed when the receiver gets control of the ball, gets 2 feet or another body part on the ground in bounds, which was the old rule anyway, right? That's all the same. But then it says, and completes a football move. But in this, they actually define in their eyes what football move is, where before they didn't say what football was, you had to guess, right? So it's either a third step, so that would include, as many of you have probably seen the Des Bryant play against Green Bay a couple years ago, reach or extending for the line to gain, which would include the Jesse James and Zach Ertz play in there, or having the ability to do so. All right, so if they deem that you had enough time to make that extension or that third step, I don't know what that means. Like if you have time to make the third step, you made the third step, right? Yeah. But yeah, so they tried to define it a little better.
The thing to me is that they really need to define is the ground cannot cause a fumble.
Right.
The ground can also, in my eyes, it's no different than the ground causing an incomplete, because if you have possession of it and you hit the ground and the ball moves, it's no different than you're running with the ball.
Right.
You have possession, you hit the ground and the ball moves, it's not a fumble.
Right. Right.
But if you do that, it's an incomplete pass. So I think that's something they need to work on, fine-tune that, because it should be able to move if you have possession of it as you're going to the ground. If you don't have possession of it and it's moving the whole way, then that should be an incomplete pass.
Right. Yeah, one thing I'll say is, and you know, by no means do I stick up for Roger Goodell all the time, but like everyone gives Roger Goodell such a hard time, but these rules are set at the owners' meetings. Yeah. So the owners who pay Roger Goodell's salary, by the way, are the ones voting on these rule changes. So when something goes wrong, like with these rules, and even with this new rule, it's going to irritate us at times, right? It's just going to happen. They're going to adjust it, but that's on the owners to do so, not on Roger Goodell or the commissioner.
Yeah, they got to bring a nice rule to the table that everybody can agree on, or the majority.
The majority, right. Like owners unanimously agreed to change this rule, because we all know that the catch rule is ridiculous, but it's good to see that they're trying to do something at least, right? So that's probably the biggest rule change that would happen this year, but there were a couple more, so we'll go through those a little bit. It's now official that after every free kick, the ball is moved to the 25-yard line on a touchback. I didn't realize that was not official, but I guess now it's official. I didn't know if there was maybe like a trial period of a couple years, and now it's official, but that's official now. So
yeah, for me, I hate it. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm more of the old school. I like to see the kickoff 20-yard line, and with the punt. At the 20, because it was kind of weird this past year. It was the kickoff would go to the 25, and a punt would go to the 20.
Right. Yeah. So that's why it didn't make sense to me either.
It's a little hard. I like it if it would go back to the 20. And getting to talk about the kickoffs, they're talking about maybe getting rid of the kickoffs, which I'm not a fan of. You have a lot of guys that make their money in special teams, and you know that's a big part of the NFL. Absolutely. As far as strategy. Do you want to kick it deep? Do you want to squib kick it, or surprise onside kick? Like just think about it. The Saints and Colts Super Bowl.
Right.
It might not have turned out the way it did if they wouldn't have been able to onside kick it. Yeah. If you just sit the ball at the 25-yard line and start there, that's a huge difference. I know they're trying to be safety, but a lot of that has to be on the players. And you know, when you're talking about football, you know it's a contact sport. You know what you're getting into. Yeah. So that's something that kind of the players have to be able to officiate themselves as far as taking care of each other.
Absolutely.
But you have to play the game hard. So the kickoff rules for me just are dumb.
I liked the rule, like they made the rule where you can't create like a human chain or whatever. Yeah. On the kickoff.
Used to be able to get 3 or 4 guys together, and they broke it down just to two, like the wedge.
Yeah. So and I like rules like that. But yeah, like this is a key part of the game, special teams. I mean, think about all the great special teamers we've had. I mean, the first one to come to mind is going to be Devin Hester, right? I mean, just an amazing talent, and he wouldn't have had I mean, I think the Bears tried him at wide receiver, and he just wasn't that great.
Yeah, he was like a corner / wide receiver, and but he stuck around because he had speed and he could return kicks.
Right. And not only do you think about veterans like great players like that, you also think about guys who kind of get their start on special teams,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot of guys that when they first went to the league, they're special team guys, and then they turn into something good.
Yeah, because they're getting time to develop.
Exactly.
They're getting the practice time at special teams. Obviously, they're playing that in the game. They're getting used to the game speed.
Yep.
But they're practicing during the week at a position.
You're right. They're practicing, and we're not just talking about the return guys. We're talking about everybody on the field.
Yeah, the gunners.
Exactly. Like these are guys that normally don't get on the field who are getting on-field experience that will help them down the line.
Yeah.
So,
and another thing too is a lot of these guys that the Bills have been signing.
Yeah.
They have special team roles.
Right. Exactly.
Like they came in for a reason.
Yeah.
So when you're looking and you're saying, well, you know, we really don't need guys, but look what the Bills have been doing this whole season. Just about everybody they've signed plays special teams,
Right.
except for the big names.
Exactly.
Obviously, but
Yeah. And I don't know. I feel like this isn't the first time I'm hearing about them saying, "Oh, we're going to try to get rid of special teams." Like they're always going to try to tweak things. That's just what they're going to do. But yeah, we hope that doesn't.
yeah,
go
I'm a purist.
Yeah.
I like the game the way it's made to play.
Absolutely.
You start taking chunks of it out, and you know that's a third of the game if you take away kickoffs or something like that.
Right.
It would be weird to see an NFL game that way.
It would be. So
as you watch the Pro Bowl,
oh yeah,
it's a totally different, especially with the
Right.
flipping of the series,
Yeah.
like at the end of the quarter instead of just end of the half and stuff like that. I don't like all that. So
Yeah.
it's a little weird if they take the kickoff out. It'd be
they
a
did
huge
that during
adjustment.
the Senior Bowl too, right?
Yep.
That's how they do it at the Senior Bowl. Yeah, I normally don't watch the Pro Bowl, so but
The Senior Bowl, I understand a little bit more of that because they want to get the quarterbacks. They want to see them in an offense.
Yeah.
But the Pro Bowl should be the same way.
Exactly.
As the
regular season, right? Another rule change is during the Saints-Minnesota playoff game, this kind of came into fruition. After a team scores a touchdown to go up to end the game, they do not have to come back out to do the extra point, which makes sense. I mean, if you saw the Saints-Minnesota game, it took like 10 minutes just to drag everyone off
clear
the
the
field.
field.
Yeah, it was so ridiculous. But yeah, so that's no longer a thing, which kind of thought that might happen with the way this ended.
Well,
So.
I think we can both agree that's how it should happen.
Right. Yeah.
Because everybody was just taking the snap and taking a knee, so it was pointless anyway.
Right. So that's changed now. Some other penalties that really we talked about that don't matter that much. Illegal batting and illegal kicking are now both 10-yard penalties.
Yep.
How often do you see illegal batting or illegal kicking? Not that often. I mean, I don't think I saw it once last season. I don't know about you. And for the refs, I'll say this: it's a tough thing to call. Because it has to be intentional, and how can you really judge if something's intentional or not? The only thing I can think of is like, which is funny because they never call it for this, is like if you're on your goal line and there's a snap that's going into the end zone and the quarterback like kicks it or it's out of bounds, they never call the penalty then. They just call safety and it's your ball, but that's okay. If in overtime, if you score a field goal first, and then on your defensive possession, you intercept the ball. The moment there's a turnover, the game's over, which again shouldn't happen.
Yeah, as long as you don't do anything stupid anyway, and
Right.
you just fall down, that's the game.
Exactly. So that's just some of the rule changes. There was a rule change that they were trying to put into effect. I think it was called the Josh McDaniels rule, where they were talking about coaches or teams being able to hire assistant coaches as their head coach while they were still in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And that did not get much traction from what I understand, which makes sense, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm up in the air on that one. I get it because you want to have that team, especially if you're trying to make a Super Bowl run.
Right.
You want to be able to have your pieces and you have enough of an off season. But in the college game, you see coaches leaving,
All the
and
time.
then in the bowl games, you see somebody else coaching.
Right.
I understand that. It's really protecting the team that is trying to make a run for a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
compared to just somebody that they might have done a good job coaching, but their team didn't make it that far.
Yeah, you think about like the Colts this past year with Josh McDaniels. It would have benefited them if they would have been able to hire him right away. But what effect would that have had on Josh McDaniel's psyche as far as going into the Patriots camp or whatever?
Would he focus as much on getting the game plans ready?
Right.
Or would he have still been trying to fill out a roster? Like some of his time would have been split up a little bit as far as getting like coaches, because then you're trying to get some of these coaches that are free agents at that time, or bringing somebody on your staff, and you're trying to get people moved and stuff like that. So that I understand that rule. Like I say, it's kind of a toss up to me because it does affect 2 franchises instead of just one.
Right. Yeah.
But it put the Colts behind the 8 ball this year.
Right. It did.
And it could have put the Patriots behind the 8 ball too.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. Right?
Yeah.
Like you don't know what to do.
I would think if it was done during the bye week. Because that's when they're allowed to interview. Yeah. Maybe that would be okay. Right. But they would still have to focus on.
Yeah. And it really all depends on the mindset of the person you hire. Right. If you hired a good head coach or a good coach, then he should be able to put that to the side and focus anyway. Yeah. So, but yeah. So that's one of the new rules. Those are, in a nutshell, basically. There are some smaller rules that got changed. Nothing really important. If you think something is important that we missed as far as rule changes, be sure to comment below and we'll talk about it. We'll happily talk about it on the next video or whenever. There are a couple bylaws that also got changed. Okay. I know there was one that you were interested in. One changes the 10-day postseason waiver claim period to a 24-hour period. So I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit.
I really like that because if you're putting a waiver in for somebody in the postseason, you have 10 days. You're out of the playoffs.
Right,
exactly. Possibly be out of the playoffs. Yeah. So the 24 hours. I think I like that, and it makes it a little easier. Yeah. Then if you want to get a guy in, you can get a guy in compared to waiting a week and a half to get him in.
Right. With the old rule, the only time I felt you wanted to even try claiming a guy off waivers is if you had the first week bye, right? Because you're not even sure where you're going to be next week. So for a quick explanation, basically what the waiver is, if you don't know, is I ask Steve for something, he waits 10 days and says, okay, you can have this. Yeah, something like that, right?
Well, it's basically a player gets cut, and it's usually they have to be under so many years. Right. So a player gets cut, and then when he gets cut, it goes in the order from worst to best. Right. And then, so let's say, team number 7, the 7th worst team, puts in a waiver, and team number 13, the 13th worst team, puts in a waiver. Team 7 gets him. Right. And then, they take his old contract, and that team just takes on that contract, whether it's 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, whatever it is, and whatever his pay salary is, and then that's what happens. They put a waiver in, and it goes through. Every team can put in for certain players, or whether they don't. And if some team has another guy, they can take him ahead of them or whatever. But if you have 3 or 4 guys that one team likes, you order them out, and as it cycles through, you get your player. If not, if he's already gone, then you don't get him.
You don't get him. Yeah. Another rule that changed, which I honestly didn't know, but I actually like this rule change. Teams can now trade players, or bylaw, I guess. Teams can now trade players if they're on injury reserve. Yeah. And I like that. I mean, because like you mentioned off camera, you still have to pass the team physical, right? So.
Yeah. So it's just more like they'll know they're injured. Yeah. And sometimes players get placed on injury reserve, and it might only be because now it's only like an 8-week period. You can designate one to come back. Right. So it might be a 6-week injury, and they still have to be on that injury reserve. Yep. But they can bring him back, and they know he'll be healthy. Or sometimes somebody's just trying to trade for the following year. Yeah. To either clear up cap space. Right. Or they're looking at him for next year, the player that they like, or they're trying to get some draft picks back. So yeah, I do like that law.
Yeah, I like that. Another bylaw that changed this year is now when you're talking about disqualifying a player for a legal act, like a Gronkowski hit to Tre'Davious White, an off-field official who was designated to be the official for that game can kind of ring down. Because if you remember that play, and I'm sure a lot of fans do, there was a lot going on. Like he hit Tre'Davious White, and then I think it was Humber, or maybe it was Preston Brown even, who kind of flipped out. We actually ended up losing 15 yards on that play. I don't know how it happened, but there were just so many flags. So now with the change of the bylaw, if a ref isn't sure what happened, they'll get buzzed, kind of like they would for a replay within 2 minutes, and the official up in the booth will be like, no, this guy needs to be ejected.
Yeah.
So I mean that kind of works out, I think.
I like that because if you're talking about player safety, that's helping out with the player safety.
Exactly.
If somebody's gonna do something to try to injure a player, they need to be thrown out. I thought Gronkowski should have been thrown out, and maybe they go a next step. Maybe next year is maybe they get suspended like the college. When college is targeting, they're out that game and they're out half of the next game. So that it is a nice rule, I think.
Yeah, and that's with college, it's an immediate thing. Like with Gronk, he could have been immediately suspended for the first half of the next game, and then they could have made a harsher punishment if they felt like they needed to, which I think he should have been suspended for more than one game. But that's neither here nor there anymore. So, but other than that, that's pretty much all that I have as far as different rule changes and things like that. The ones that I mean, there's a bunch of them, but most of them don't matter that much as far as I'm concerned.
Some of them just they twist a few words.
Right, exactly.
About the same.
Exactly, and some of them like the kickoff one or the IR one. I thought they were that way anyway, so it's kind of like okay. But maybe you feel differently. So if you think we missed something, please let us know. If you have anything else you wanted to add, that's about it. So
just to touch base on Jim Kelly.
Oh yes,
we talked about this off camera a little bit. Or Hall of Fame quarterback. Had a huge surgery. They were going to reconstruct his jaw and everything. He had, obviously everybody knows he had oral cancer.
Right.
And there was a tweet out there that everything went smoothly. They think everything was a success. He had 12 hours of surgery. So that's a long time. And I believe they said he'll be in the hospital for another 2 to 3 weeks roughly.
Okay.
So we just send the prayers out there, wishing him the best.
Absolutely.
But yeah, just keep you updated on that too.
Yeah. But to Jill, to Jim, to the whole Kelly family. We loved seeing you on the field, but we love seeing you beat this battle a lot better, man. I saw a tweet out there, something that said 0-4 in Super Bowls, but 3-0 against cancer. I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah,
like,
that's more of a. I'd rather take that victory anytime.
Absolutely, dude. We're with you, Jim. We're with you, the Kellys, and we wish you nothing but the best. So that's all we have for you in this episode. If you love this kind of Bills content, we love this content, so we'll keep it going. But yeah, subscribe to our channel, like or dislike this video, and please leave a comment. And follow us on Twitter and Facebook too. There is a link on our YouTube channel for those, so follow us on there and we'll happily talk to all of you. So until next time,
go Bills.
Go Bills.